You're about to learn the sex position that will turn even the most timid premature ejaculation into bedroom beasts. But more importantly, you're going to learn the different factors that cause a certain sexual position to be beneficial or work against you when it comes to ejaculation control. And with that understanding, you can better customize your sexual experience to be an absolute master of ejaculation control. Let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White, and I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy and create an epic life. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when new content like this is dropped. And I have a free ejaculation control ebook for you. You can find a link to that in the description of this video. It's going to help you take your ejaculation control to a legendary level. Before I share the position with you, there's a crucial understanding you must have about the anatomy of the penis, and especially how it's working with a woman's pussy in the context of sexual stimulation. Because here's the thing, not all sex positions are equal. Some will be more challenging. If ejaculation control is an issue, you definitely want to pay attention here. Okay, so we have here, believe it or not, this is a penis. Probably less obvious is that this penis is inside a vagina in this image. It's important to know that the ejaculation response is happening because the friction of sexual stimulation stimulates the nerves, which are sending signals. They're sending all kinds of information saying, hey, yeah, it's being stimulated, so like harden up, all right? Or prepare to bust. And there's a specific region on your dick, which is right here. This is the frenulum. Now, I know technically circumcised men may not have a fully intact frenulum, but overall, this region right here, which is underneath the glands, it's the bottom portion just behind the front of the penis, on the bottom of it, all right? It's a very sensitive area called the frenulum. This region is the main one responsible for causing you to ejaculate. So the more pressure, the more stimulation is placed upon here, the more likely you are to build up to busting a nut. And it's really good to become aware of this. Like, I didn't pay attention to this that much before. I remember when I was first learning sexual kung fu, there's a lot of books and teachers that say like, oh, it's the glands of the penis, which is the penis head. That's the most sensitive. But I got kind of turned on to the fact that the frenulum was the trigger. And once I paid attention to this, I was like, of course. It was very obvious, because if you rub this area and you pay attention to what happens in your pelvic floor, I almost guarantee you, even if you're flaccid, it's going to cause this contraction response in your pelvic floor. Whereas if you rub the glands of your penis, it often has a more relaxing response in your pelvic floor. You can notice that yourself. And I also realized that like, when I would be self-pleasuring, most of my masturbation habits were based around just like totally just fucking going to town on this frenulum area. It's funny how, we develop these habits, at least I did, of like what's going to bring me to, right on the edge of ejaculation the quickest. And those often become the go-to things that we do, both in masturbation and in sex. And what I realized is that if I started to place more stimulation on the upper region of the penis, the upper shaft, and the glands, like I talked about before, the base of it, it gave me a different type of stimulation. It felt good, and it could help me like sustain an erection, but it wasn't this like on the edge of ejaculating tension response. And what I found is the more that I would stimulate these other regions of the penis, the more sensitive they actually became to pleasure, and I would generate different types of sexual pleasure. And something else you might find interesting is that in Taoist sexology, and in other systems as well, they understand that there's these reflexology zones of the genitals. And I don't think I'm gonna get fully into it, but basically it's good to balance stimulation evenly over the entire penis, and for the man, well, this day and age, who knows, right? But for the woman, the vagina, the base of the penis tends to correspond more to the kidneys. It's kind of like the penis is a macrocosm of the body. So like kidneys, liver, spleen, stomach, lungs, heart, the glands often corresponds to the brain, different glands in the brain. Obviously, there's gonna be different dynamics to sex, but for your we could say like the bulk of your session, the main thing you wanna focus on is not giving yourself the kind of stimulation that's gonna push you over the edge to ejaculation, but giving her the kind of stimulation that will drive her to orgasm. Talking about female anatomy here, because I drew this. This is supposed to be a vagina, okay? I know it looks more like a fleshlight tunnel kind of thing, whatever. There's 3 pleasure zones we wanna be aware of. Right here we have the G-spot, which is, it's an inch and a half, 2 inches. It's somewhere up in there, kind of a spongy area in the woman's vagina. That's a strong pleasure zone for a woman. Of course, there's a clitoris, which is right here. And then this area back here, just outside the cervix, which can be a very, very powerful trigger for a woman's orgasm. So ideally, when we can stimulate all 3 of these, That's fantastic. But what's even better is if we can stimulate them with the least sensitive part of your Johnson, which is going to be the upper area of it, while avoiding excessive stimulation on the underside of your penis. Any position that does that, oh, it's going to be fantastic. And another note here with the clitoris, your pubic area, pubic mound, pubis, your pubic bone, you know, that just above your genitals, that can be rubbing against her clitoris while you're inside of her, hitting all these other zones as well. It's going to blow her mind and she's going to explode, literally. So let's get into the position. The best position that achieves this, I'll give you a really fun drawing of this. And unfortunately, I'm a terrible artist, so it's not going to be as fun as you might think, but it'll be funny. The best position is what I call the king's position. In this position, basically, you're standing in a wide stance. She's on the edge of her bed, on her back. The reason why this is such a great position is you can adjust your angle of attack, so to speak, so that if you're at more of an upward angle as you enter, you can adjust the position so that more of the upper side of your penis is being stimulated and your pubis is pressing against her clitoris to give all those points some good pleasure. But the best thing about the position is your feet are on the ground. You are standing up and upright. You're loading your legs with weight. And this gives you a whole nother level of ejaculation control. At least most men I've taught this to have found it to be true, and I've found it to be true myself. Because the thing is, going back to like all these signals coming out of the nerves of the penis, move through the pelvis, when you load up your legs, it helps to redirect some of the tension that's happening because, you know, your legs have to hold some muscular engagement. So it can cause a bit of like these different cross signals coming from the nerves of your legs, coming from your penis. It can create a bit of like confusion for the brain of like, wait, what's this signal? Is this, I don't know if that's really a signal to ejaculate. It's like, looks like the legs are working hard, so it's all right, let's keep it going. Having the legs at a bit of a wide stance open with your weight resting on the legs allows you to avoid the pelvic floor contractions, you know, that squeezing of the pelvic floor, which is what tends to push men over the edge to ejaculation. This bolster is gonna be my partner, okay? So I get into a bit of a wide stance, my feet are on the ground. Now, if you're not super athletic, you don't have to be, you know, ridiculously wide stance, but it does help to have a wider stance, which is why it's good to have some leg strength, you know, for your sexual life. Even if you're here, it's gonna be helpful overall. Your partner is on, obviously, like the edge of a bed or a couch, some sort of elevated surface, and she's on her back, and you can even prop her hips up with a pillow just to adjust the angle that you're going to go in at. Her legs are up, you could be holding her legs, holding her thighs, holding her ankles, it could be up over your shoulders, you know, whatever. And you're driving. You're driving, baby, oh yeah. Drive from the glutes, as I've talked about in other videos, you pump from the glutes. And instead of just doing in and out motions, think more of using your pelvis to pelvis area almost as like a leverage point. So you think of more of this kind of grinding action happening. Instead of in and out, it's more of a pressure and grinding type of engagement, which is going to drive her crazy. You can control the height that you're at to make sure that your frenulum is being less engaged. And I think you're going to find that this is an incredible position for your ejaculation control. So you've learned the king's position. Now you have a very valuable sexual kung fu tool at your disposal to bring it in the bedroom, my friend. What I recommend that you do now is watch a video I made that will teach you how to move in a way during sex that is more conducive to ejaculation control. So you'll be able to implement that in this position you just learned and have some serious stamina in the bedroom. So I'll put a link to that video here. If you have any friends who are struggling in the bedroom, make sure you send this video to them. And you'll definitely want to grab my free ejaculation control ebook through the video description, which will give you more techniques for developing legendary ejaculation control. Take care. Have a great day, my friend.